Good day, Waterdown. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And today we are going to talk about a very central part of this course. It is central in the curriculum. If you look at one of the overall expectations of this course, called Genocide Studies, you will see that it's about memorializing and monuments, and studying those, and of course understanding why they're important in our society. Behind me is a list of all the major genocides that have happened in the 20th century. It's quite a list, and of course, it's done by circles. Those circles represent the number of victims that have perished. However, that's a map. What about in our daily lives? Well, in each of those countries where you had the genocides, there usually is a memorial or a monument that basically reminds the citizens of that nation what happened, what transpired during that time of tremendous strife and injustice. Memorials. Monuments. What's the difference? Is there a difference? There is. A memorial is an object which serves as a focus for memory of something, usually a person or an event. A monument, however, is a structure created to commemorate a person or event, and it really is important because it is taken on more of a historic or cultural significance and heritage. Of late, in the world, we have seen a lot of monuments being taken down. A lot of people are starting to question these historical monuments and memorials, and do they have a place in our current society? What do I have here? To our viewers, there is just a piece of concrete. But in fact, this is not a piece of concrete. This is actually a part of the Berlin Wall that I took off myself in 1990. Absolutely true. And when I tell you that, this has a lot more meaning, right? And you go through this all in your lives. Every town that you live in, every area has memorials. They have monuments to the people that came before, or to the history, or to a huge event. And I'd like you to look at some of the genocides. How do you memorialize these things? Well, if you look around the world, people have done it in very dramatic and different ways. I mean, people say actually death camps are their own memorials, and they really are. Auschwitz-Birkenau, although it's closed right now, is a monument. It's a living, breathing monument, as is the Anne Frank house, as is Bergen-Belsen or Mauthausen. All of these camps and these places in the Holocaust are themselves a memorial. Berlin has an amazing Holocaust memorial. You look at it and you're not overly impressed, but when you're inside, I am told that you get this feeling that the walls are closing in on you. Miami. This is a very stark reminder of the awfulness, using these images, awfulness of the Holocaust. In terms of communism, one of the greatest memorials that I personally have ever seen comes from Prague, and it is the victims of communists in Prague. And as you walk up through these statues, it gives you the chills, because it really shows you what communism does. It takes you out piece by piece. Cambodia, the Cambodian genocide. Take a look at this. Bones stacked in shelves by their body part. It is a stark reminder that in Cambodia, 25% of the population was killed by the Khmer Rouge. Armenia. If you look at Armenia, its stark, angular brutality reminds us of the 20th century's first genocide in the modern world. If you look at Srebrenica, over 8,000 Bosniaks were murdered here. It is a reminder of one of the largest acts of genocide since the Second World War. Rwanda, in the churches and the schools where people fled, where the Tutsi population fled to hide from this genocide. Unfortunately, they were liquidated in these places, and nothing, the bodies are gone, but the clothes remain. And finally, the monument that I want to leave you with as an example is the Sophie Scholl Memorial in Munich. And Sophie Scholl was a part of a group. She was just a young girl. She was a part of a group called the White Rose. And they decided that it was time that they stood up and spoke out about the horrors of the Nazi regime. And it's interesting, they were just young, they were university students. Her and her boyfriend, her brother, a professor, and a few others formed this group. But Sophie still remains the face of this group. They were all brutally executed by the Nazis in 1942-43. But their legacy lives on. And it's interesting, in our world of cell phones, we look down at our cell phones while walking to work. Well, I guess that's the point of this memorial. You see, the memorial is in the sidewalk. It's on the street. So as you're looking down on the way to work, you can't help but be struck by these pages. And they are, of course, ceramic pages of the text that the White Rose published, the anti-Nazi resistance text. Now, does this have an impact on our society? You bet it does. There was another woman. Her name was Trudy Jungel, and Trudy Jungel was Hitler's private secretary. She was the one in the bunker who last saw Hitler before he died, one of the people. And what's interesting is that for years and years and years, Trudy would tell reporters, listen, I was just his secretary. I didn't know everything. I didn't know anything about the Holocaust. I didn't know. I just type things. I'm innocent. But one day, she happened upon the Sophie Scholl Memorial in Munich, and it struck her that both she and Sophie Scholl were born in the same year, both from Munich. And it struck her because she said, how could Sophie Scholl know? But I didn't know. And from that point on, she realized she does have a responsibility, that she should have known, that she chose not to know. And I think that's the most powerful thing about memorials. It keeps history in our minds, always. And it still teaches us those valuable lessons that only these awful, awful things in history can teach. And I know when you've gone on trips with your family, you've seen memorials. Some of you have been to New York City and you've seen the 9/11 memorial. That's a powerful, powerful monument. If you've been to the Tower of London, I'm going to show a picture right here of the poppies. Unbelievable.
But if you just look around, even your own community, Waterdown, I mean, there are memorials and monuments everywhere. As you walk down the street, try to notice. They're in your community, they're in your school, they're everywhere. And they're important reminders of the things, the events, the people that came before us to make our country the great country it is.